Hey everyone, this is Sebastian, I'm product manager for Arturia, and I'm here today to talk to you about Analog Lab 2. Analog Lab 2 is the new software version of the Analog Lab instrument, which is a collection of more than 5,000 sounds from all the Arturia software instruments. In it you will find sounds coming from analog synthesizers, digital synthesizers such as the new Synclavier instrument, but also 2 models of electric pianos, acoustic pianos, uprights and grands, 3 different models of vintage organs and a string machine. In total, there are 17 different engines which are inside Analog Lab in one single interface, which is very easy to use and with a redesigned browsing workflow. Let's have a look. So this is what you see the first time you open Analog Lab. This is what we call the studio view. The studio view is a very simple interface which gives you access to some of the best sounds from each of the instruments that are contained in Analog Lab. So I can simply click on an instrument and I will hear some sounds of that instrument. I can navigate previous and next buttons. And I can also select a new instrument just by clicking on it. And I have sounds from the MIDI. Once you get out of the studio view, you will see this interface. This is the main interface of Analog Lab. It's separated in 4 big sections. One here which is for filtering and searching through the list of presets. This section here is the result list. This section here gives you some information about the preset that you have currently selected, and at the bottom you will have some controls over your sound. So let's have a look at each one of them. The result list is a very simple list of presets that you can choose. So I just select different presets. I can sort alphabetically, I can sort by sound designer right now, but I could also select, I want to sort by type. So now we'll see my keys, also have my lead sounds. At the bottom of the result list, I will see how many presets are currently selectable in that list. So one thing you want to do is filter down that list, and that's what you do on this column on the left. It's a tag-based interface, so I can simply click and activate some tags. Like maybe I want some bass sounds, and I want them to be in the factory list, and maybe I want them to be aggressive and maybe digital. So now we'll have a small list of 21 presets to select from, which is a lot easier. And I can just select one of them. Now I can clear the filters by clicking on this arrow here. Another thing I can do is search for a preset name. When I remember a sound I like, I can just look for it by searching my name. So maybe I don't know, I could be looking for a preset name on a hero. So now I only have 2 presets. One is heroic keys and the other one is the hero. I'll select the hero. Yep, this was the sound I liked. So very easy when you know what you're looking for. The different types of filtering are types. So they give you like general types of sounds like bass, brass, keys, leads, sound effects, sequences. Banks, we have 3 factory banks. One is called factory. It gives you most of the sound from the instruments that were created by our sound designers. You also have original. This is where we put the sounds that were inside the instruments which we modeled. So you will find the original sounds of the Matrix 12, of the Synclavier, some sounds from the Prophet VS, from the Prophet 5. So it's very easy for people who are looking for old vintage sounds to just get them in this list. Templates is a list of very simple sounds that can be used as a starting point to create your own sounds. Characteristics are more of like how you perceive the sound, like acid, aggressive, ambient, bizarre, digital, maybe simple sounds. If I only want a simple sound, I'll have only sounds which You know, it's nothing impressive, but depending on the situation, you may be looking for that type of very simple sound. Playlists is something that was created for the V Collection 5, and it's a very easy way to organize some presets, maybe for let's say a live set. Let's say I want to do a live set, so I'll just create a playlist called Live Set 2016. Okay, so now it's my playlist number 3, and I see it's empty. So what I need to do is fill it with some presets. I'll select some bass presets, and maybe I want some digital presets once again, and maybe I only want some sounds from the synclavier. I like this one. I'll just drag it and drop it in my playlist. Let's move on. This is not what I'm looking for. Let's try another one. This is more like it. I'll just put it in my playlist here. Move on. Sono bass. This one is good. A bit loud, but it's good. So now I move and I see that I have the 3 presets that I selected. One thing I can do is reorganize these presets. So maybe I want quad bass after sono bass, maybe I want sono bass in the second. The reason why it's you can organize these presets is because they can be called with MIDI program change messages. As you can see, we have numbers here, and they correspond to the MIDI program change number. So I could easily just navigate into sounds using program change messages from my MIDI keyboard. And the playlists themselves respond to bank LSD messages, so I could navigate in the playlist and inside the playlist to find the sounds which I selected. So let's have a look at this section on the right here. This gives you information about the preset which is currently selected. So right now I selected a sequence, it's called 12 Evil Partials. It's once again the synclavier preset, and I can see that the name is 12 Evil Partials. I can see that it's from the synclavier, it's a sequence, but I also know that it's in the factory bank, that the sound designer is Stefan Schott. I see that it has 3 characteristics, and it has a comment. It's an evolving timbre with the partials morphing. So I'll just listen to it. And it says more saturate with the mud wheel, so let's try that. Alright, so let's have a look now at this section at the bottom, which is the control area. So this section at the bottom gives you control on your sound. I can have control on my filter with the cutoff, resonance. I also have the envelope amount on the filter, some effect settings for chorus and depth and dry wet, a number of parameters which are more related to that particular preset and that were selected by the sound designer, these 4 right here. And these 9 sliders here are for envelope controls. And on the left, of course, we have the general volume of the preset. So these controls are a limited set of controls compared to what you would get in the original Prophet instrument. But they were selected by Arturia to give you the best control over the sound of that preset. Okay, so now let's say I have my classic acid bass sound, which I like, and now I edited it a bit to be more like what I want, and I want to save it. So I'll go to this button right here, which gives me some of the controls to save, import preset, export preset, resize the interface, and get some information about the analog lab instrument. Let's have a look at each one of these. I can save my preset. It will open an interface to a save as interface. So let's say my preset, it was called classic acid bass. Let's say I want to call it acid new preset. The author is Seb. The bank right now by default is going to be in user, but maybe I want it to be in my acid bass line because I'm going to use a lot of these. The type is still bass. The characteristics, it's a bit more aggressive than the previous preset. So I'll just activate aggressive, and And I'll add a comment. I'll say this is my first acid base. Okay, once I'm done, I'll just click OK. And now I have my preset called acid new preset right here because I filter it down. It's still acid and base, so I find it in the result list. So let's have a look at the other options of that button right here. So I can save as. I can also import some presets, export some presets, like I said. Another thing I can do is resize the window. That's a new feature of the V-Collection 5 instruments, is that all our software interfaces are now resizable. So depending on the screen you have, you could get a much smaller interface or make it as big as you want, because the interfaces can be as big as 3,200 pixels wide, which is quite big. This is too big for my display. I'll just go back to 180%. So a multi is actually the combination of two sounds, two presets like we saw until now, that can be mixed together. So right now I see here that I have one preset from the SEM and one preset from the CS80. So let's have a look. The first panel in the multi-mode is called tracks, and it's a simple mixer of the two parts. So I can just mute one of the parts. So I only have the strings from the CS80. I can add the two together. We have some effects. You can send the sound to two effect slots. So either of the two parts can be sent. Right now I have an effect, I have a reverb on slot A, and I have my two parts going to that. I can of course pan one to the left, one to the right. So it's a simple mixer. Another area of the multi-mode is called MIDI. And what it allows you to do is select where you want each sound to play. So I could say I want the SEM preset on part 1 to play only on the upper side of the keyboard, and I want the preset from the CS80 to play only on the lower part. So now, right here, I only have the string sound from the CS80, and here I only have the preset from the SEM. For each of these two sounds, I can select the low note, the high note, the MIDI channel, so I could also use two keyboards and control each part separately, change the octave, so I could turn down this one, transpose each one of them, and I can say whether I want the pitch bend, mod wheel, aftertouch, sustain pedal, and expression pedal to control either one or both of these two parts. So next is the effect section. So right now we see I have only one slot filled with a reverb. I can edit the parameters of my reverb, change the shape, change the feedback per delay, and I can also add another effect. So maybe I want let's say a delay, a dub delay, and I want that delay time to be quite long, and I want a lot of feedback, and I also want some LFOs on the pitch. And now what I will do is send both my tracks to the send B, which is the second slot of the effects. So let's have a listen. You can hear the delay now. And the last section is preset, and as with single presets, it shows you the name, the type, the bank, so all the information related to the current preset which I'm playing with. So let's now have a look at the control section in multi-mode. What I see is that I now have three buttons here to select either the controls of part 1, which is my arpeggio from the SEM, part 2, which is the strings from the CS80, and I can also go to the live section, and the whole point of the live section is to give you more control over that multi with macro controls. So let's have a listen. These microcontrols control multiple parameters inside the instrument, and we can have a look at them. So I just click on timbre here, so I can control this first macro. I see it has a name, timbre, and I see that it is assigned to 4 different parameters. It's assigned to the frequency of the first part, it's assigned to the volume of the first part, it's assigned to the brilliance, and to the volume of the second part. I can reassign either by clicking on that assign button and changing, I don't know, maybe I wanted to, instead of controlling part 1 volume, I wanted to control the send into effect A. So I just click assign, click on send A, and now, and set an amount. And now when I move my parameter, you can see that the send A parameter will move on its own. And you also see that part 2 volume changes because it's assigned, it's the fourth control here. So microcontrols are a very easy way to add dramatic movement to your sound just by turning one knob. You have up to 8 macros which you can create, and each one of these macros can be assigned to 4 parameters. These parameters can be from either part 1 controls, part 2 controls, or the mixer controls. So I showed you right now how to do it with the mixer control, but I could also just click here and I will see a drop-down list of all the parameters from part 1 and part 2. And I could say I want, I don't know, the VCO1 mix of the SEM instead of the frequency control. So now my macro will control the VCO1 mix. Analog Lab ships with our MIDI controllers, such as the Keylabs, like what I have right here, or the Minilab MIDI controller. And there is a seamless integration between these MIDI controllers and Analog Lab software. For instance, when I turn that control right here, the first knob, I can see on my interface that the first parameter will move. I can move my first slider, and it will the change will be reflected on the software instrument. Let's say that now I have a Minilab, so I could select the Minilab from the list right here, and we can see that the layout changes because the Minilab doesn't have any sliders and it has 16 knobs. So what you will have here is 14 controls right here, plus the general volume, and one of the knobs is dedicated to browsing through the list of presets. Another interesting thing with Analog Lab for people who own some of the instruments from Manchuria is that they are directly integrated inside Analog Lab. So right now I have a CS80 preset selected. I can see instrument here is CS80. One thing I can do is click on that button here. It will open the interface of the CS80 directly inside Analog Lab. So now, instead of having only the limited set of controls which I have down here in Analog Lab, I could change the entire sound using the interface of the CS80V. Once I am in this page, I have different controls right here. I can see I have this first button here, which is an open button. It will show some controls of the CS80. This is a specific setting of the CS80. These 2 buttons here are specific to Analog Lab. One of them is to close the interface. Okay, I'll just open it again. And the second one is an assign button. And what it does is I can click on them, and now you can see all these controls turn blue and this one turn green. And what I can do is say, now I don't want to control the brilliance with the first knob of Analog Lab. I want to control maybe the high pass filter of the CS80. And with the second knob, I want to control the low pass filter. And with the third knob, I want to control the maybe the resonance of the low pass filter. Now I'm done. So now these controls have been reassigned to new parameters. So now let's have a look at what happens when I use a multi. So like we said, a multi preset has 2 different sounds. It can be from different instruments. So right now I have one of my parts is from the synclavier. So I can see the synclavier interface right here. I can close the interface, and the other part is from the Mini V. So I can see my MIDI. And once again, I can edit any of the sounds, any of the parameters from these two parts from inside the Analog Lab interface. Another thing I can do, we saw the macro mapping function earlier, and we said we could assign. So now let's say I want to assign to I want to assign to maybe the attack of my harmonic envelope of the synclavier. So now I see that this macro one is now connected to the timbre attack. Maybe I want to assign this one to the repeat rate, and I want to assign this one, but I want to assign it to the mini-V. So I just open the mini-V, and now I choose the cutoff. And so you can assign to any parameters from these two parts, or even maybe the effects. I want to assign to the feedback of the reverb. So the macros can let you assign pretty much any control on the Analog Lab interface just by clicking on assign, selecting a control. It's that easy. Another thing I would like to show you is the MIDI mapping. It's fairly simple, but you can map the previous and next preset button to MIDI control. So maybe you don't own an Arturia MIDI controller, so you don't have a tight integration with the MIDI controller. But one thing you can do is just map these to two buttons, and now you can go previous or next easily. And all the controls from part 1, part 2, and the live, and the effects and the mixer in multi-mode are simply the part controls in when you use just a simple preset. All of these can be mapped with MIDI just by clicking on a control and turning a knob, and you will see it turns red because it's now assigned to a MIDI controller, and that means you can easily just customize the MIDI map inside your inside Analog Lab. This was Analog Lab version 2. There's a lot to discover, but in particular there's a lot of sounds to discover, and we made it very easy to just find the right sound and tweak it just the way you like. Thank you for watching.